Fellas, today I am here to collect my yearly prescription of industrial-grade Catwoman. Not the anime kind either, but muscle-bound Catwoman that smells like wet fur, cheap ale, and war crimes. Bhashiva begins being surrounded by ogres, chaos, and 3 separate cases of elitist ideology. The game expects me to carefully manage diplomacy, build a balanced army, and respect the various warning messages it provides.
Get them banned. We don't do that here.
As for Bhashiva herself, I read her lore and discovered a horrifying truth. It's not very interesting. So I've elected to ignore it entirely and replace it with pure misinformation. Good evening. According to my completely reliable sources, Bhashiva enjoyed dressing up as a human and was rightfully bullied for it, a reverse weeaboo if you will. Her uncle, Zhao Ming, who has somehow avoided several investigations that really should have happened by now, fully supported this behavior and eventually sent her westward to deal with the only ethnic group powerful enough to threaten Chinese sweatshops, the Short Kings. Our journey begins in the Vale of Titans. Our first victim was Bull Mallethands, a shining example of American inclusivity. His faction contained both the clinically obese and the clinically malnourished. With him removed from existence, I then hired a caravan and ended my turn. Unsurprisingly, the Chaos Dwarfs decided to mug it. Confident in my general's biological superiority, I entered the battle expecting a decisive victory. Instead, I discovered that my supposedly majestic tiger warriors were approximately the same height as the Chaos Dwarfs. It was a dark day for the White Tigers. So I'm also going to immediately rebrand them as Diversity Tigers, for reasons I suspect I cannot elaborate on. After capturing Blood Peak, I acquired my first relic. Now, relics are technically powerful faction-wide upgrades. This is propaganda. In reality, they are industrial-grade catnip, granting increasingly dangerous level of feline confidence. The next relic appeared at Titan's Notch, which was a fortunate coincidence because Zhao Ming had recently developed a new hobby, outsourcing his problems directly to me. Before I could enact any meaningful violence, my caravan was once again apprehended by unlawful short people. At this point, I began to suspect that this was becoming a reoccurring issue. It became a reoccurring issue. After being paid the equivalent upkeep of 6 units for the privilege of existing, I continued towards Titan's Notch and eventually Yahtzee Peak. Along the way, I discovered that Bhashiva can teleport between attack animations. This is incredibly impressive ability that dramatically increases her effectiveness at looking cool. After cleansing the mountains of the Mountain Eaters, I received a public service announcement in the form of a corn threat between the ominous wording, the angry red colors, and the giant evil portrait. The game was clearly attempting to warn me about something.
Shiver my timbers!
While moving through the mountains, I noticed an interactable marker on the map.
Here I come. Here I come.
Upon clicking it, a Khorn army appeared.
I'm in danger!
They were definitely stronger than me. The army was led by a Khorn champion named Eddie.
Ligma balls.
Now this was bad, but fortunately the art result calculator was experiencing a level of optimism normally reserved for cryptocurrency investors. With Bhashiva's army now held together by the common denominator in all ethnic groups,
Let's be xenophobic.
I decided to redirect my aggressive tendencies towards capitalism.
Ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?
One by one, the ogres were removed from the map. My confidence grew, and my faction became increasingly convinced that we were unstoppable. Naturally, I responded to this success in the most reasonable of ways. I declared war on Grimgor. I employed the ancient Caffean tactic of fighting unfairly. I ambushed him. The battle itself, remarkably simple. My Diversity Tigers charged his army while Bhashiva spent most of her time sprinting circles around Grimgor. I am still not entirely sure whether she was confusing him or me. With Grimgor temporarily removed from the list of my immediate concerns, I returned to the south to continue my campaign against capitalism. I quickly discovered that conquering settlements is surprisingly easy when nobody is home. Unfortunately, Goldtooth eventually noticed. Upon inspecting his army, I could safely conclude that the reimbursement check from my 600-pound life has not yet arrived. At this point, my army had abandoned all concept of balance, self-preservation, and diversity in all but name. My original plan was to employ the time-honored strategy of corner camping. This would have worked significantly better if my range forces consisted of anything more threatening than 2 units of peasant bowmen. With no alternatives remaining, I enacted Plan B. Everyone forward. Military scholars often describe this strategy as terrible. They are in fact entirely correct. This was such an awful plan that this blue decrepit goblin child decided to start leaking structural fluid from the neck. Somehow this worked. Before I could enjoy my victory, Tamer Khan arrived to remind me that happiness is temporary. In response, I initiated emergency diplomacy. This involved declaring wars on people I had never met, signing trade agreements I barely understood, and convincing Grimgor to stop trying to kill me. The peace treaty with Grimgor was particularly important because it transformed him from a major threat into somebody else's problem. For now. The following turns, Grimgor died, not to me.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Which, based on previous experience with Chaos Dwarf labor practices, I could only assume this was the worst possible outcomes for the orcs. Naturally, I vowed to avenge Grimgor. This also conveniently aligned with my primary campaign objective, making it both righteous and tax deductible. The first battle against the Chaos Dwarf taught me an important lesson about strategy. You don't actually need strategy when your army consists almost entirely of the same unit. The game then suggested I confederate Miao Ying. At time, she possessed approximately 3 settlements and several ongoing problems. These problems included schizophrenic wizard, a rat, and a professional racist. At the end turn, Snickage declared war. This did not surprise me. What surprised me was that the other 2 had not done so already. After repossessing Astagorf's workforce, I had eliminated one of the 3 great evils of the world. I would have celebrated, but this also meant I needed to invent a new excuse to invade people. Breaking news! Drazov the Ashen has just been accused of being a bigot. This achievement was immediately celebrated by the game, presenting me with another ominous warning. The Plague Lord arises. The accompanying text explained that Nurgle's followers were gathering in great numbers. I spent approximately 3 seconds reading it, then I ignored it. Will this decision negatively affect me in the future? Absolutely. This is the future. Quake Ooze, Herald of Nurgle,
Buffa these nuts.
promptly appeared with an army packed full of Tier 3 and Tier 4 anti-infantry units. My army consisted of 19 infantry units. I decided this was an excellent opportunity to experience the auto-resolve button.
Jesus Christ.
I stopped Draz by storming every location he had been recorded in. Eventually, I met him personally. I approached with peaceful intent. The laborers did not survive. Several turns later, Helmengorst appeared with a trade agreement. I accepted immediately and took a moment to admire 2 things. Firstly, how much territory he had just lost to Kugav. Secondly, how alarmingly close Archon was. Before I could concern myself with Archon, Zatan decided to employ the highly controversial strategy of using his sleeper agents. They did not survive. Exactly 1 turn later, Archon attacked, Froth captured the settlement, and with exception of Zhao Ming and Kugaf, every single faction bordering me was actively attempting to end my campaign. This required an immense amount of strategic planning. Giving territory to a rat running an active eugenics program, check. Recruiting increasingly unstable numbers of tiger warriors while driving my economy towards a cliff, check. Fighting Archon with a terracotta sentinel that turned out to be significantly worse than advertised, check. After reclaiming my ruined settlements, I decided not to invade Archon's territory, not because I couldn't, because it was absolutely disgusting.
you are an incredibly big piece of shit.
The only front that remained completely secure was the north. This was largely thanks to Krianj. For over 60 turns, their defensive strategy consisted entirely of standing in the dark and waiting for somebody unfortunate enough to walk past. It worked for far more than it should have. After several turns of indiscriminate violence, my empire finally stabilized. Then Lokir declared war, then Kugath declared war. Excellent. Good evening. Drazov the Ashen continues to lose settlements. Experts remain confident that this trend will continue. This just in, Drazov the Ashen has just been cornered and has been shot. Confirmed dead. The overlords of Zarduk have launched an invasive force consisting of 40 units. 38 were laborers. The remaining 2 were witnesses. In the south, nothing of value is happening. Up north, Zatan's forces, 2 elite units and 17 laborers, who I assume were told this was a team building exercise, were engaged and eliminated. Casualties, 11 of mine, 1,305 of his. Investigators are calling this a workplace accident. And finally, the servants of the Conclave, who have spent the entire campaign quietly sitting on the same 3 settlements they started with, have been forcibly reminded that this is in fact a war. That's the news. Actual takeaway, I don't think I'm playing this campaign the way it was meant. Looking back on the campaign, I feel like I've learned several valuable lessons. Game mechanics are optional, warnings are optional, armor composition is optional, and economic stability is definitely optional. Apparently, all you really need is determination and an unhealthy amount of angry tigermen. Before I finish, I also wanted to say thank you. We recently passed 1,000 subscribers, which is genuinely very cool. I appreciate everyone who's watched, commented, or stuck around for these increasingly questionable campaigns. And if there's any faction or games you'd like to see in the future, let me know in the comments. I most likely will not reply, but I will definitely read them and give you a big red heart. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.